Digital Audio 1, Creating New Sessions, and Screen Management. This is Kevin Bressler, and I'm going to go over how to create new ProTools session and things you should think about, and then go over the basics of how to control the basic edit window layout within ProTools. We may touch on the mix window as well. So we're going to create a new session. ProTools is open, and I'm going to go to the File menu, and I'm going to hit New Session. For today's example, I'm going to create a 44 16-bit session. That's a 44 kilohertz for sample rate and 16-bit for bit depth or resolution, sometimes called. I'm going to choose to make a WAV file as the standard for any files that get recorded into ProTools. It doesn't really matter. AIFF is the max standard, but at this point they're totally interchangeable. So we'd want to create blank session here, and session template gives you some options, but it creates all the tracks for you, and kind of complicates things just in that there's pre-made tracks that are named, and the inputs and outputs and things like that can get a little confusing. So we'll go create blank session. Working on a PC today, and I'm going to be saving onto WC Work 2 here. I'm not going to create a folder this time, but if you were working on a larger project that had several different Pro Tools sessions, you would choose to do so. And usually on a Mac or PC, you can just find the new folder button and it should create a new one. Pro Tools has some automatic file management that it does. The folder structure, this is one that from a previous Pro Tools session, is basically preset as you name the session. So this is file management, demo, and screen. And it's going to create a folder with that same exact name, and then it's going to create a first PTX file, which is the Pro Tools session file, which it will put within that folder. There are some other automatically created folders. We'll take a look at that a little bit later. Within that, generally you can add folders to a Pro Tools session. Changing the location of files while Pro Tools is open is not a good thing to do. So we'll hit save here. Okay, so it automatically opened to the edit window. If for some reason you didn't see the edit window, you could always come up to the Windows menu and then go down to edit. So just when you're editing, you want to make as much of the screen as possible. Looking at the waveforms in a big way makes editing quite nice. So let's just look at the basic parts of the various edit window. So let's start on the right side. This is pretty important. There's a column that can be hidden down here in the lower right hand corner, and this is the clips list. This shows you a list of all the audio that is recorded into Pro Tools or imported into the session. You'll notice that some are in bold and some are not. The ones in bold are whole files, and the ones that are not are generally clips or could be groups of regions. So think of it as a palette. Once they're imported, you can drag onto tracks. If you just drag onto an empty area, it will automatically create an appropriate track, mono or stereo. And if you have an existing track, you can drag onto that track. We don't have any created yet. The clips list gets complicated as you start editing. Every time you split a clip into a couple pieces, it automatically renames the first and second part of that split. And nothing to get overwhelmed by. You'll go there occasionally, maybe to find a previous take. But if there's other ways in Pro Tools to manage finding what you're looking for, including playlists, which we'll get to in another lesson. So we're going to hide that for the moment, just to make it nice and big. And then on the left lower hand corner of the screen, we also have a column that can be hidden. Up here, we have a list of the tracks, and you can see there's nothing there yet. Will be, as we create tracks, you'll see them. You can show and hide tracks and select tracks by name from here. It's pretty handy if you had a lot of tracks and you just wanted to edit one. You could hide them all and then just visually see that one. There's some edit groups down here which can be handy for doing edits across multiple tracks, also for a later demo. So we'll close that window as well. So this is the timeline, which as the playback cursor goes forward, or at any particular location, shows playback location. It's one of the nice part of Pro Tools. It's non-linear editing. We can jump from any moment in time to any other moment in time with no need to rewind or anything like that. Just instantly accesses the hard drive, or nearly. So then up here, so just think of that as a visual representation of time. And right now we are looking at a pretty complicated list. It could be a little bit more complicated than that. Let's see how bad it might be. When you first open your first Pro Tools session, you might find this. So these are the timeline rulers. So I'm going to go to the View menu down to Rulers, and I'm going to hit All. This shows all of the various ways that you might measure time depending on what kind of project that you're going with. For most editing purposes, minutes and seconds is fine, or time code. Or if you're doing music editing to a grid, bars and beats would be good. But that's just visually, that's a lot of the screen, and wow, that makes me dizzy. So we're going to try to thin that out. So, and then there's also some other rows. The colored rows that you see here are for other things that can be shown, like tempo of the session, time signature, key markers, which are handy later on for jumping around. But let's minimize that. So if we went to the View menu, we could go to Rulers, and we could go Minimal. That's much nicer. It takes up a lot less real estate. And you can see that there's only one timeline being shown. That's connected to the main time scale up here, which shows current playback location. And you can also see if you have a region selected, start, end, and length will be shown, which can be quite handy if you're trying to make an exact selection. So let's go to minutes and seconds here just to make it nice and easy. And there you go. So one last part of the screen, because we're going to be dealing with tracks a lot. So let's just create a new track. You can do this from the track menu. I'm just using a shortcut, which would be Command-Shift-N or Control-Shift-N if you're on a PC. And we'll hit Create. This will be handy because I want to show you some of the areas of a track. Now there are different types of track, but this will suffice, starting with an audio. This is a stereo audio track, as you can see here with the dual meters. And we are going to look at how complicated a track or / channel might be in terms of the info you can look at. We go to the View menu, and we're going to go down to Edit Window, because we're looking at the Edit window right now. And this basically controls what you're viewing on the tracks, and we're going to go All. So there's a whole bunch of different columns that will show you different things. The important ones are really the far left one, where we see the track name, sometimes the track number, and solo and mute control. But we might want to access and look at these different things at a later time. So let's minimize this. But again, the important sections are this first one with the track name, and then the I/O. The I/O stands for input and output, and this shows you where you're recording from and where playback is going to be sent to, as well as a volume and pan control, which are pretty basic audio controls that are handy. So let's go View menu, and then let's go Edit Window, Views. Let's turn it to Minimal first, and then we're going to go back there, and we're going to turn on I/O, which that's all handy. That's very, very good to do. We can also do this as a shortcut. There's a pull down right above the track area, and you find the same list. So we could go All, we could go Minimal, and we could go I/O along with it. That's fantastic. That's a good way to start. So always make sure, just you have a good workspace to start with, and kind of clear it out and get rid of any extra stuff that you might need. Note that this area up here, there are some options that can be found from this upper right hand pull down, which we could hide the zoom controls or look at the transport amongst other things. But if you want to simplify things, you could even go Minimal up there. I usually like the standard way that it starts. Quickly, I just want to show you the mix window, just because it's used so often. So anytime you have a track in Pro Tools, there's an automatic track channel that you see on the Edit window, and as well as a channel on the mixer. So we can always switch if we go to Windows, and we can go down to Mix window. I like to minimize it I'm sorry, maximize it, and then switch back and forth with a shortcut, which would be Command plus or Control plus, and that way you don't have to resize the windows and you can go back and forth quite quickly. But you'll notice that we have the same track that was shown, just the one stereo audio track. And just like on the edit window, we have different parts of the channel we might look at. So we can, oops, we'll just ignore that. We can go View Menu, and we can go Mix Window Shows All, which is quite a bit. Then we actually have to scroll. Or Mix Window Shows, how about None? Those are the basic controls. There we see the input, the output, pan controls, solo control, mute control, record control. This is a HD system software-wise, so there is an input button, which we don't have to worry about. And of course, the good old fader. Let's go back to the edit window. All right, well, that covers starting a new session as well as some overall screen management functions of Pro Tools.